Hello, everyone. I am so honored to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me. And I know there's been a lot of actionable takeaways today. My hope for you is to share some inspiration first through my story. And there will be three main mantras that I share with you, and we'll get to that. But I'd like to share a bit of my story with you because it's very unique. And I came in here with a plan. I'm going to tell you my burnout story. I'm going to tell you how I built the business and scaled it. And what's interesting is I say a prayer before I speak. Let whoever needs to hear, whatever it might be, let it come through me so that it lands on the right person. And what came through to me today is to share a little bit more of the backstory rather than the traditional burnout story. So I'll share a little bit of both with you. Everyone in the room knows what burnout is? Yeah. So what I thought burnout was, I am that, what is it you were saying, Renee? The 26-year-old who knew anything? That's me. That's where I'm at. I thought burnout was something that happened to you like way later in life, like 40s, 50s, and I didn't really have a concept of it. I didn't even think I needed to learn about it because it just wouldn't have been relevant to me. If you would have told me that at 21, on my first ever paid vacation, that I would be in a hospital room, having the most expensive trip, the most expensive vacation, right? I would have laughed and said, you're crazy. If you told me I was on the road to burnout at the time, I would have thought you're crazy. I probably wouldn't have listened to you. If you told me to relax, if you told me to chill out, take a break, go to the beach, go to the spa, I would have said, I don't need that. I'm all work hard, hustle hard. This is my thing. I think I even still have an old sweatshirt that said hustle across the top because that was my badge of honor. That's where I found my self-worth, was in the hustle. So I was in for a very rude awakening when on my first paid vacation, I'm in a hospital room and most of my organs just shut down from stress. My digestive tract shut down, could not hold water in. I was in bed for 10 days, effectively missing the entire vacation that I had waited more than a year to take. And all those hours in bed, literally not being able to even move over to one side because everything was inflamed. I had a lot of time to think. I had to ask the question, what is my purpose? What am I doing this for? Why do I get so much joy out of working? Is this the story I want to have? I could have died from this. If I were to die today, would I be happy with where I was going, with where I was spending my time, with how I feel day to day? Or am I just operating like a machine? And you go really deep when you're in bed for that many days. You start asking, what am I here for? What's possible for me? What would I be doing if I thought anything was possible? How long have I been working so hard with such tunnel vision that I haven't even thought to ask myself, how am I doing? How is my heart today? How is my body doing? I wasn't being a good steward of my time. I wasn't being a good steward of my body. I was sleeping maybe 5 hours a night. I was working 60, 70 hours a week whenever the company needed me. And at the time, I thought I was living my dream life. I had this hotshot corporate job, company car, 2 trips to Europe a year, 6 weeks paid vacation. I thought I was riding high. I was empty, to be honest with you. I was completely empty on the inside. And so I had to think, what would make me full? And so I did what I call a plot twist, and I took a turn. I quit the job, no plan, and I did what no one would do, and I booked a one-way flight to Thailand, as far as I could possibly get away from Miami. And I did this for a few reasons. There was a strategy behind it. The strategy was, I needed to get out of my environment to see what's possible for me. And 2, I needed to get away from anyone who told me I couldn't be a business owner. I needed to fly so far away, so there was a 12-hour time difference away, in order to just feel like I could do something. And I think that speaks volumes, especially in hindsight, because that really reflects to me that at that time, I didn't feel supported. I didn't feel like anyone I knew would have supported me in saying, I want to be a business owner, I want to do this. I was so apprehensive of just expecting people to tell me I couldn't do it, that I booked a flight before anyone got the chance to tell me I couldn't. And so the timing of this is pretty interesting because I landed in Thailand on December 26th of 2019. COVID was announced December 28th of 2019, and I decided to stay in Thailand through the whole pandemic. So I had a very different experience than most people. And again, no plan, no job. You obviously aren't going to be working in Thailand, not for that wage and not legally either. So what happened was everything lined up perfectly for me to finally start the business of my dreams, and that was to become a coach. Now, this is where the coaching story comes that I've actually never shared, so I'm really excited to be sharing with you today. I've always been the kind of person where people look at me and they ask, how did you do it? How are you confident? How are you so young and you'll go do crazy things like take a one-way flight to Thailand? And to be honest with you, I've been living in survival mode for majority of my life. I would say I finally stepped out of survival mode maybe 2 years ago because it's all that I knew. See, I didn't come from a very wealthy family. I actually came below the poverty line, and I started working at the age of 15 to support the family. I remember my boyfriend at the time would drive me over to the Chick-fil-A where I would work at my first job, and as soon as I was 16, I actually left high school early so I could work more hours. And so I graduated high school at 15, and by 16, I was managing a staff of 60 employees. And I so badly just wanted to make more money. I would have done anything at the time, and I saw the value in the resources that were coming to me and the skills that were coming to me, that I had that motivation, that hunger, and that grit to do whatever it took to be successful in that company. And man, did that come with tests. Imagine being a 16-year-old who's managing other 16-year-olds and 20-year-olds and 40-year-olds. You can imagine anyone older than me was not too pleased. And neither was the owner of the restaurant. He did not want me to go to the top and be the operations manager for the age reason. And that was fair. And so I used logic. Let's look at the numbers. Let's play a game. Let's see who can outperform in sales. Let's see who can outperform in productivity. Let's see who the employee's favorite is going to be when it comes to culture. And I outperformed 3 separate managers who were hired in and then left when they weren't able to perform, leading to where I was managing the whole restaurant. So I was managing that multi-million-dollar restaurant, just me and the team. And it was amazing because that really set me up for having my own company. I saw that it didn't really matter what business I was managing, it was the people. I love people. I love working with teenagers and letting them entrust me with their lives and share what was going on because I felt for them. I'm an empath. I had an abusive childhood. I had a lot of mental health disorders that I had to overcome. I was diagnosed with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, making it very difficult to perform in situations like school. I was diagnosed with OCD, a very rare form called trichotillomania, which is where you pull out hair. And I was also diagnosed with PTSD. And see, any one of those individual things would have been easier to navigate. But when it comes to the medicine world, you can't actually treat any of them without hurting another. It's kind of like this triangle trap they put me in. They said, you can treat 2 of your disorders, but the third one's going to be much, much worse. And so I decided to go without medicine. And all this to say, with the background of mental health, I think it's been the whole theme of my life, which is what is revealed to me my purpose is to bring awareness to that and to empower leaders in today's world to be aware of that, not just for themselves and healing their own hearts, taking care of their own bodies, being a good steward of their own time, but also be mindful of their employees because you never know the background that someone's coming from. So the first mantra I'd like to share with you today, and I did not grab the clicker, but it's about time. And I know Sandy talked about... Oh, there it is. Good. Okay. All right, perfect. First slide. Awesome. We can go just one forward. Reclaim your time, control your controllables. I know Sandy spoke a lot about time earlier, and I think this is so important. And I think where I take a turn on this is your most expensive time is your free time. Because how you spend your leisure time away from work is what makes you who you are. And a lot of times, I hear people say, I don't have enough time. We all have the time, and what's really important is what we do with it. And what's crazy is when you start to prioritize the things that give you energy, all of a sudden you have a lot of time. What I found in coaching now hundreds of entrepreneurs around the world is we actually do have enough time. We just don't have enough energy to use that time the way we want to. So we more so have an energy problem than a time problem. And that's important to know because we all get energy from the same places. We get energy from sleep. We get energy from our diet. from food, we get our energy from exercise, and we have the ability to get energy from people as well if it's the right people around us. And that's a really important key. So I believe in being really intentional with our time. And I know I was just sharing earlier at the table, the way I take a very serious approach to time, because time's something that's really precious to me. When I was in Thailand, I would like to say I just went on vacation for a few months, started a company, it was successful, and that was that. But to be honest with you, it was a really trying time. The month after I landed, I snapped the meniscus in my knee. That was fun because I wasn't going to get surgery in Thailand, and I had to live with a broken meniscus for 2 years. And while I would love to say that was the only medical issue that happened while I was there, there is this one Saturday morning. I had just finished my workout at the gym. I'm a kickboxer, so I go to Thailand to kickbox. And I went to my favorite Greek brunch spot. It was on the other side of the island. The sweet, sweet woman owns it. And I wanted to get pancakes that morning. Anyone else like pancakes on a Saturday morning? Yes, please. I've been working hard all week. I want my pancakes. So I go to get the pancakes. I had an amazing breakfast, and I rented a motorcycle. I tend to like adventure. I have an adventurous streak in me. So I got a green Kawasaki Ninja, big motorcycle, and I am driving back. It's 11 o'clock on a Saturday, so there's no traffic. We're fine. I'm cruising. I get to a red light, and I'm just waiting to turn right, and I only saw 2 frames from there. I saw a white car about this far. I saw a white car about this far, and it was, in my mind, I was like, I'm about to get hit. That was the last thought I remember. I'm about to get hit. I wasn't even moving. So this crazy white sedan pulls out, swings around a corner, and crashes right into my motorcycle head on. This driver was not even looking at the road. They were looking at their phone, and they didn't even press the brake until they audibly heard the accident. So they were actually still accelerating when they hit the motorcycle. Now, I am beyond blessed to say that I was thrown off the motorcycle. I rolled, and I stood up. I was not knocked unconscious. And when I say time is precious, I could have lost my entire life right then and there. There are more than 1 million different ways that accident could have happened. Had that person got me at an angle, I could have lost a leg, right? I would have lost a leg. I would have landed on the side. The bike would have skid. I would have lost a leg. Had it hit a different angle, maybe I could have broken my back or my neck. But this person hit me head on, meaning the tire bounced off, and I rolled. Now, I was that, 22 at the time? I was that 22-year-old who knew everything at the time. And so I knew enough to wear a helmet, but also just workout outfit. So just short shorts and a sports bra. And even still, I rolled and I didn't even have road rash. I was completely fine in one piece. And that tells me that was a spiritual incident that happened. It wasn't about a car accident. I don't believe that was a freak accident by any means. That was a wake-up call. What are we doing? COVID's happening. You're about to get stuck in Thailand. Your money's going to run out, girl. You can't get a job over here. What are we going to do? Now is the time to come back to me and find your purpose. Find your purpose in me. Focus on what that is and build. Now is your time. I'm going to create the space for you to do that. That's what it meant to me. And I'm so grateful that I lived to tell the story, because now I get to share. It's not the most cheerful question, but what would happen if today was your last day? Reflect on that. How do you feel about how you spend your time, your schedule? How do you feel about the depth of your relationships? Do you have hobbies? Are you having fun? What would be your favorite story to share, or the story you wish you had to tell? It's really crucial that you look at your time in this way, because at the end of the day, it might be an illusion of time, but we only have so much of it. Which brings me into the next mantra. We can go to the next slide. And this is about evicting your inner critic. Does anyone know what their inner critic is? Oh, yeah, we're familiar. I remember speaking about the inner critic. I learned from my very first life coach I hired when I was 19. And am I allowed to curse? Yeah. So she used to call it the itty-bitty shitty committee in the head, because it's not just one voice, it's the whole committee that comes after you. And it's all the voices, and they're arguing, and they're angry. And one of the biggest gifts she gave me was the tools to let go of all those voices. And what makes that so powerful is when we're not in the coaching space and we're not speaking to coaches, we tend to think that we're stuck this way forever. We tend to think that we're stuck in self-doubt. We're always going to be perfectionists. We're always going to be this way. We're always going to doubt ourselves. No one's actually confident. Everyone has imposter syndrome. It's not true. It's actually not true. We can release those things. There's tools today, and really cutting edge tools and mindset work and coaching where you never have to deal with those things again. And it really is our personality that creates our personal reality, and it's amazing how quickly our personality can shift when we start evicting the inner critic. And I want you to first identify what is it that's holding you back right now. I know the answer for everyone in the room is always ourselves. It's always ourselves that hold us back the most, especially when we shift into taking control of our lives. So what is the thing that's holding us back? Being able to place a name on it will really help us get past it first, because there's so many resources online for this. So I ask you right now, put on your notepad, what is the one thing holding you back? Is it procrastination? Is it perfectionism? What's cool is we go a step deeper beyond that. We get to find the root cause. Because what most people try to do is they say, I'm a procrastinator. So they identify with it. So immediately you're going to be stuck with that because now it's an identity, not a habit, not a behavior. And the second thing they do is they go to Google. Dr. Google, how do I stop procrastinating? And that's awesome. You're going to find lots of tips, but it's not the root cause. So what you'll do is you'll learn how to stop procrastinating, and then it might show up as self-sabotage. And then it might show up as distraction. It's far easier to say we're distracted than that we're procrastinating, but they both come from the same root cause. So we get to go a little bit deeper. A lot of times, procrastination comes from a fear. Maybe it's a fear of putting ourselves out there. Maybe it's a fear of success or failure. Maybe it's a fear of being rejected. But when we have that acute awareness on what it is that's holding us back, we can begin to find resources and equip ourselves to overcome that inner battle, so it'll show up on the external world as well. Now, what I like to talk about is main character energy. Has anyone heard of this? A little bit? Cool. So I'll go ahead and explain it for those of you who aren't aware. We're all living in our own movies. And I'm sure you can see it this way. Sometimes it feels, I know for me for a long time, it felt like someone else was writing the story, and I'm just living in it. I had friends where I just felt like I was the sidekick or I was the support role. I've been in circles and rooms where I just felt like an extra. And I didn't like feeling like that because I felt like I had no control. And when you feel like you have no control, you're not in a position to create those shifts. And so I decided that I'm not going to just be a character or an extra. I've decided that I'm the main character of my story. Not only am I the main character, I'm also the director. I get to write it. And on top of being the director, I'm the casting director. This is a super cool role. That means I get to decide who else is in the story, which makes for a much more fun experience, I'll say, especially after the past that I've had. So main character energy is deciding I'm the star of the show. I decide what happens. I decide where I want the storyline to go. I get to decide, this story's kind of boring. I don't like where this is going. It's the same every day. If this is a book, I wouldn't read it. I'm going to throw in a plot twist. I'm going to shock everyone I know, and I'm going to do it big, and it's going to be my story. And maybe it goes great, or maybe it goes wrong, but it's a story anyways, right? So if it always went well, it wouldn't be interesting. At least I'll learn something from that. But main character energy is more than just making the decision that I'm going to be the main character and show up that way. It's also healing. And we have two main relationships that I'll talk about today. And one is the relationship you have with your past self. And there's many versions of your past self. And then there's also the relationship you have with your future self. What's interesting with the entrepreneurs I've worked with entrepreneurs who are just starting out, just doing a startup, up to doing about $1 million a month. And what's interesting, around the 7-8 figure mark is when I start to hear a lot more about the future self. And one of these habits that I'll share with you today that a lot of these super successful entrepreneurs have is they, on a daily basis, have a dialogue with their future self. And this is a great visualization exercise you can do, and I've seen it done different ways. I've seen one of my 9-figure entrepreneur clients, he sends voice notes to himself every day. Long ones, 10 to 20-minute voice notes to himself every single day. Why? This helps him reflect. This helps him process and decide, who do I want to be? How am I showing up? What am I proud of? What do I want to change on a daily basis? That's more feedback than most of us give ourselves in a year. I have another client, a very successful supply chain logistics company, and he sees a bench. He closes his eyes into a meditation, and he visualizes himself sitting with his future self on a bench, and they're having a conversation. And he goes to his future self for wisdom. How do I handle this situation? I'm really stressed out right now. I feel like I'm not going to be able to make it through. I feel like this obstacle is too big for me. I don't have the confidence. I just want to give up. And he gets to look his future self in the eyes and ask, what do I do? Who do I need to be? What am I not seeing? How can I overcome this obstacle? And what's cool about that, too, is when you have that relationship with your future self, you're far less likely to push things off to tomorrow. Because now your future self is like your best friend. Do you want to give your best friend all this extra work? Probably not. And there's actually a study done on this within management. I don't have the quote for you for exactly where it came from, but I remember reading this in management. When you have a manager who knows someone really well versus maybe someone who's newer or more distant to them, they're more likely to put more work on the person they don't know as much and less work on the person they know. And this relates to ourselves as well in our mindset. If you don't really know your future self, you're just going to give them all the stuff you don't want to do. You're just going to load their plate, and you're going to live in the moment. But if you're a friend to yourself, to your future self, all of a sudden, your day-to-day is in service to them. Who do I need to be today? How do I need to show up? What rooms do I need to be in? How do I need to physically show up different? What energy do I need to take in? What goals do I need to be going after? What am I not doing that I should be doing or that I could be doing? You start to think differently when you have that relationship with your future self. When it comes to your past versions of yourself, what's interesting, has anyone heard of inner child work? Some of us. What's cool about the human psyche is that every version of ourselves that we've ever been still lives within us. The 4-year-old you, the 6-year-old you, the 10-year-old you, the 14-year-old you, the 22-year-old you, the 26-year-old you who knew everything. They're all still alive within you. And a lot of times, moments in time will get frozen into our psyche and we hold on to them. And why this is important is if you don't heal that relationship with all the past versions of you, they will hold you back. And this means releasing guilt. This means choosing to forgive. This means releasing the people who maybe hurt you in the past and choosing forgiveness to others as well. And realizing that maybe the people who told you couldn't do it or who told you weren't good enough actually just thought that about themselves. And until we bring light to that and start looking at each individual past version of ourselves, we won't realize that maybe that's what was holding us back. What's important about this as well is when it comes to identity. Our subconscious mind is so powerful. It's amazing. I'm a master practitioner in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, if anyone knows what that is. And our subconscious mind is so much more powerful than I think anyone has ever realized. One of its prime directives is to maintain your identity, whatever that might be. It's not going to have the conscious awareness of what you want it to be. It's just following your direction. So if you believe that you're not good enough, your subconscious is going to find every reason why that's true, and it's just going to support it because you're right. It's your identity. Your subconscious is never going to give you a conflict with identity because its role is to support your identity. It's a support role. If you decide that you're a procrastinator, that's right, we're a procrastinator. I'm going to show you. We're going to create the whole storyline in service to what you've decided that you are. So identity is important here too because maybe your identity at 5 was, I'm going to stand in the background and not be seen because I can't bear to be bullied again. Or I don't want to be called out again. I can't bear to be judged or rejected one more time. Or I forgot my lines when I was on stage in drama class when I was 14. I will never speak in front of anyone again. When we bring light to this and we realize that's not our current identity, our subconscious will start to shift in the background and support the identity we want to have. But we have to start with that decision. I'm the main character. I'm the director. It's my show. I get to decide where it goes. Which brings us into the next part. Once we make that decision, and once we do that inner work of deciding what we're going to do, and we rewire our minds to align with the person we want to become, now we get to talk about marketing. And we get to influence our perception. Now, this is a different topic, but has anyone heard of the mirroring universe theory? Anyone know we live in a mirroring universe? One person? Awesome. So I believe that we live in a mirroring universe. Everything we see in front of us is a mirror of what's within us. So if you see someone that's incredibly confident, owning it, doing amazing, that's already existing in you, or else you wouldn't have seen it in the first place. You cannot see what does not already exist within you. Maybe it's within, if it triggers you, that means it's within you and you're not expressing it. So you get to use everything you see as a data point for what's going inside, because you can only ever see a mirror. And I think parents see this a lot. I always hear this from my parent clients when something's triggering about what their kid is doing or their teenager's doing. And then I'll always ask, oh, have you ever done that before? Well, oh, so it's something that you possibly don't like about yourself, or something you've tried to change but maybe couldn't change or failed to change, or something you didn't even know you could change or weren't even aware that you didn't like. When we start to use our interactions with others as mirrors, we now have full view on the person we're being, which gives us the feedback to know what to change next. And we get to influence our perception. And I love this because we're not stuck to who we are. We're not stuck to who we were, who people told us we were. We're not even stuck to how we appear on social media, believe it or not. We get to be whoever we want to be. And if that means you want to up level, you just need to download the software to do that. All you have to do is find someone who's done it. And then you can follow the blueprint and get it done in a quarter amount of the time. That's how you can collapse your own timeline. I personally love playing with this. I was the most disorganized, scattered person in the world, couldn't focus, and I knew that'd be a problem when I wanted to start a business because I'd have to be my own boss. That was my worst nightmare. I could be anyone else's boss, but for myself, how am I going to get myself to work? Especially the test was in Thailand when I'm living on a tropical island during the pandemic, and I'm starting a business. I want to go to the beach, but I had to learn, okay, this identity that I'm holding on to, it's not supporting me. I got to do the work there. So when you know where to do the work and you're looking at your relationships with other people, you can also start asking for feedback. And I think this is such a life hack, is to ask the people around you, what is your experience of me? What have you noticed in our spending time together? What is something that you can see I need to work on, but maybe I don't see it, and say it gently? You could always ask for how you want the feedback back. But when you get those data points too, you also get to see, how do I shift my perception? Now, one thing that I am notoriously horrible with, okay, is fashion, style, shopping. I cannot stand this stuff. My mom always says that when she had me, she had a boy and a girl, because I like all the adventure action sports, and like the clothing thing, not really my thing. But she had both. That was fun for her. For me growing up and now doing networking stuff, not fun. I remember one of my biggest challenges in my business was moving to Miami from Thailand. Okay, I went from small tropical island, like maybe 1,000 people, spread across the whole island, not much going on. My whole life was on Zoom, which is great, because all I had to have figured out was a shirt. I needed a blouse. That was easy, got that. Matching, now we have some challenges. So we moved to Miami with just my carry-on suitcase, and I am not exaggerating when I say the only thing I owned was tie-dye. I had tie-dye, everything, in every color. All the colors of tie-dye, and I just didn't know how to show up. And I had two options. I could say, my family never taught me how to do this. No one in my family is fashionable. I have no one to ask. I don't even know what to research about style. I'm just not going to go shopping. I'm just going to stay on Zoom forever. I think that's a good plan. I could have done that. But instead, I realized I am not the person I've created. I'm not the person I am today. I am the creator of this identity. And if I created the person I am today, well, then I can step out of the box and I can create the person I am tomorrow too. So I found a mentor. I hired a stylist. I've decided I'm going to learn how this makeup thing works. It's a science. Go figure. And an art, both. I'm going to figure out the hair thing. I'm going to figure out how to do the girly things. I've decided I'm going to step into this other version of myself because the future vision I have for my life is going to require that. And so acting as if it was already happened, I made those investments. Same thing in my business. I had to ask, if I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that I would have a successful business, what would I do differently and who would I hire? My biggest business hack to building a multi-six-figure business in 2 years was hiring business coaches. I could, in theory, trial and error. I could see what works, see what doesn't work, and just keep on trying and hustling. But what I learned about myself from the first burnout is I don't want to do that again. I can't afford to burn out. My nervous system has been through so much in my lifetime, I can't afford to have that stress anymore. I want the clearest route, the clearest roadmap. I want to learn from someone who's done it the hard way, has helped other people do it the easy way, and has such a streamlined process that I can get it right the first time without having to continuously feel like I'm struggling. And that's available to all of us in the room. Mentorship is free. Coaching, fast results. And above that, more than anything, we're at a women's conference. And I think there's such a shift happening within femininity right now that we're coming back to more community. You have an amazing resource sitting right next to you right now, you know? And let the person next to you be your partner after this conference. Let that be your accountability partner. Let that be the person you share vulnerably with on who you want to become. Let them see the messy parts of you, the messy parts of your identity, the messy parts of your life, what you think is messy, and just ask, what can I be doing differently? How can I be more like you? You know, I really admire this about you, and I want to be more like that, but I have no concept of how it works. Can you guide me? When we start using language like this and building relationships like this, we get to completely shift who we are. And then we get to market that new version of ourselves. Because I don't believe we just build wealth. I don't believe we just find success and money finds us. I think that's great. But I think the greater thing is that we become the person who attracts that wealth. We become the person who creates that successful business. And the art of becoming, I think, is every woman's journey. It's the art of becoming. And it's not that we grow up and we go to become a teenager and then we become an adult. We're always becoming. We're always growing. That doesn't end. And we get to take a hand in that and control the controllables and say, this is the way it's going to be. That's who we become. So that's my story. I hope you guys got some good takeaways along with a bit of a story for inspiration as well. I'd love to know if anyone has any questions. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I have a question. I'm sorry. I had to take a call, and I missed a bulk of what you said. So if for me, would you please repeat to me, just briefly, that moment where you said, I'm not going back to the United States, even though we're in the middle of a pandemic. What was that like?
Wow, great question. Great question. That was tough, to be honest with you. So looking at the timeline, Thailand didn't have the cases, which was really remarkable because it shares the border with China. So Thailand didn't have too many cases. So it was very weird. I remember February was weird because we saw Iran in the news, then we saw Italy's numbers, and everyone in Thailand's like, what's going on? This is really crazy. Like, we cured this in January. What's happening in February over there? And then the U.S. announces they're closing the borders, and now everyone in Thailand, the whole expat community is confused. We're like, what's going on? Thailand must be closing, even though everything's fine. So it was announced that the borders would be closing April 8th. My motorcycle accident was March 24th. So I had a lot to think about because I had a motorcycle accident. I did go to the hospital the next day to get checked out, but I did have the thought, you know, if I end up in the hospital, there's no one here for me. I don't know anyone. I have no one to call. There's not going to be any plane for anyone to come get me. This is a huge risk to stay in Thailand. And so I did book a flight back to the U.S. I was like, you know what? It's the safe thing to do. I'll figure it out, and that's what I'm going to do. And the morning of that flight, I just felt so deep in my stomach, I couldn't do it. It was an absolute no. And I was like, what is going on? Like, what are you trying to tell me? It was a no, I can't go. So I rebooked the flight. Qatar was amazing at this time. It was unlimited, no flight change fees, unlimited changes. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to think about it. I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to book a flight for in 2 days. Same thing happens. I wake up. I can't do it. I just can't leave. something in me would not even let me pack. It was a no. And so I did that dance for like 4 times, to be honest, 4 times within a week. And I was like, I'm really going to do this. The American Embassy in Bangkok actually called me on WhatsApp, which is pretty amazing organization for that time. I mean, that's crazy. But they called me on WhatsApp to check, do you have a plan? Do you have resources? Are you going to stay? Are you going to go? And they said, I think it's actually better for you to stay in Thailand because the U.S. isn't looking so good. You'll probably be better off here. So I made the decision to stay. I always like to ask, how can I make this more fun for myself? Like, this is crazy, but how can I add a little bit more joy and fun? And how can I paint more color into the storyline that I'm doing? So I did something also crazy. I went and booked a beach house on the water. It was like a 15, 20-minute walk to the nearest waterfall. I was the only person there every time. I was on the beach. I could go paddleboarding. And the most impressive part of this was I was on the 3rd floor. I had an office, so my desk was just overlooking the ocean. So it was, how can I support my nervous system through all this craziness that's happening? Because obviously I'm concerned about my family and everything going on as well. And then how can I support the business? Because this is make or break. My back is against the wall. Something's going to have to break. Like, I'm going to have to do something. So that's how I made the decision. I had to let my intuition guide me, and I had to listen to my gut telling me, you're meant to stay here. Yeah.
Was your family freaking out or supporting you?
So I love my family. They're extremely supportive. I'll say I conditioned them a little bit because I've traveled through 36 countries alone now in the last 6 years or so, through 6 continents. And most of that wasn't planned at all. It was more of a phone call. I'm already on the plane. Hey, guess where I'm going? Or guess where I just landed? They can't keep up, and it's not so organized. I'm very organized in business, but when it comes to personal travel, I love booking one-way flights and throwing in those plot twists. So my family was very supportive. And they were an advocate for it because coming back to the U.S. and getting a job at that time with all the layoffs and the office problems, had I come back to the U.S., it would have been a stressful environment to start a business, and it wouldn't have been very productive in finding a job. Yeah. Thank you for the question. Did someone else have a question? I think I saw a hand go up.
You had mentioned several times about like helping people be more efficient with their time and kind of like rewiring their thinking on, maybe it's more energy focused, not necessarily time focused, like you're lacking energy, not time. Mm-hmm. If you had to give somebody like a couple like really brief tips on like what you recommend when they're trying to like regain some of either that energy back or time back, like obviously I'm sure it's something you could talk on and teach a lot, but what are a couple of your tips?
Yeah, great question. So what are some tips for regaining your energy? So knowing your energy sources is huge and prioritizing them. I need a lot of extra accountability for something like this because I was team no sleep for many years. One of my biggest hacks for this is an Oura ring. I don't know if you can see. I have a ring on my finger. It looks like a normal ring. This is actually an Oura ring. So this is smart tech that tracks everything from heart rate variability, how much oxygen is in my blood. It tracks my body temperature, all the different sleep stages I'm having, and a few other things. It just, the whole dashboard is honestly amazing. What I love about it is before I used to interpret the data on my own, but this ring comes with an app that gives you actionable data on what you need to do every single day to optimize your energy. It doesn't let you decide what your bedtime is. It says, no, if you want to feel good tomorrow, you have this window right here, or else it's going to be a bad day. And I'm the kind of person, I need that. You need to tell me just like that. It'll give you messages like, don't push it. That's pretty aggressive for an app to say that to you. But I can tell you, when you don't listen, you get sick. And it predicted right when I was getting sick. It told me don't push it. I didn't listen. I pushed. But I used that to know when to go get an IV, for example. I'm like, oh, don't push it. I'm pushing it. Need to get an IV today. So using some sort of accountability to look at your sleep, it'll tell you when the best time to have caffeine is. It can tell just from my metrics if I'm drinking enough water every day. So I like to outsource those metrics so I can focus on the business part of things. That's how I do it. Sleep's really important. And then diet has been a huge thing for me. I work with an amazing nutritionist who makes it super simple and easy. I've worked with nutrition coaches who make things complicated. I don't do any counting. I don't do anything crazy. I have simple meals always ready to go, and I just don't think about it. That's been incredibly crucial for me, having ADHD, because diet tremendously affects the symptoms you experience when it comes to that. So things like cutting sugar or looking at the time of day I'll eat certain foods, all of a sudden my ADHD symptoms have disappeared with that guidance. So that's been really big for me too. And the other thing is the reflecting on social energy, who you're spending your time with. A question, every 12 weeks, I go through who I'm most in contact with over that 12-week period, and I ask, is this person making me happier? Is this person making me a better person? Are they intentional about connecting? Do they know what my goals are? Do we know who we're becoming? And how do I feel after I connect with this person? We have such amazing intuition and inner guidance within us. If we just start to tap in and see, how do I feel after connecting with this person? All of a sudden we can start seeing what to do next. Yes, thank you so much for that question.
Amazing. You've been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Of course, thank you.
I have a question. You shared that you help people from, just starting or people that make $1 million a month, which is incredible. How did you attract such high income clients? What's your strategy?
Great question. So there's a lot that goes into this. And it's been a tie between productivity coaching, because I started as a productivity coach, really shifting the way people see time and the way they use it, to main character energy over here, which is what I'm calling it within the mindset coaching. It's both. When it comes to scaling entrepreneurs' businesses, what I've seen is I typically work with the type of entrepreneur who wants to be known, who wants to start marketing and put themselves out there, but they don't have time. They don't have time for that. They probably can't even take more clients right now because they're so at capacity, and they realize that they've put themselves in a box and they can't quite figure out how to get out of there. What I've learned is that if you try branding and marketing with someone who doesn't have the time or mindset work, it doesn't hold because the mindset holds them back. And if you just open up the time for someone, you give them 40 hours a week back into their schedule, they still don't know exactly where to start. And if you give someone time management and also the marketing, if that mindset piece is missing and they don't feel good enough or they're afraid to put themselves out there, I can lay out an 8-figure business plan and it won't get done. So I tie in all 3 of these into my coaching, which has allowed me to get results like one of my clients was a professional speaker. Her business went down to 0 during COVID. She was being flown all over the world to speak, and COVID took her business away. Where could she fly? She was locked down in the most locked down city in the world in Melbourne, Australia. And she didn't know what to do as a single mom. So we added on coaching to her services, and we got her from 0 to 75K a month in 7 months, which is huge. Why? Because first we had to get her time. She's working on her PhD right now in positive psychology. Then we had to talk about her mindset and what she's capable of. And then we had to look at how do we position ourselves and how do we influence the perception other people have of us to attract those higher level clients like this. It's the system that I teach. I've also helped other clients get from, for example, in real estate, $5 million in revenue every year for 8 years to take a quantum leap to $25 million the next year. Why? Because we did time management first. We really drilled into productivity and structure, making it flexible and easy and feeling good in the energy. Then we started talking about mindset. What are we actually capable of? Who are we actually becoming? And then how do we let others perceive us? How do we present ourselves to the world? And that's the secret. That's the secret sauce to getting the results. It's all productivity and branding.
Amazing. Thank you.
My pleasure.
That's our Chick-fil-A background
Awesome.
right there.
I think one last question. Thank you. I love these questions. You guys are great.
One more question.
Yeah.
So I have a business coach right now that really drills down on my skills as, the business owner. And if I have an issue with personnel or whatever, I can run to her quickly. And she looks at my books, things like that. But doing conferences like this, attending conferences like this, I know there's a lot of coaches out there that are more focused on mindset, which is and all the things that you described. Like, do you work hand in hand with like a business coach, or I don't know if you've heard of EOS system. Like, I'm big into Entrepreneurs Organization. I don't know if anyone is a part of that, but it's a really great organization, global. Do you find that you work in tandem with coaching that people already have in place? Maybe you don't talk about finances or bookkeeping or anything like that? Because it seems like as a business owner, you have all these different coaches that manage different parts of your every day, right? So
Yeah.
do you find that coaches work together like that, or is there just like
100%.
one person that should be helping with all that stuff?
100%. I believe in having a team. I mean, in personal and business life as well. I have a fitness coach. I have a nutrition coach. I have a mindset coach. I have a business coach. I'm also in a mastermind. Why? Because I find people who are where I want to be or have gotten other people to the place I want to be in very specific areas of life. And someone that I would trust for relationship advice might not be the person I'm going to trust for business advice. And that's totally normal. But I go for people who are very, very specific results. As a coach, I love working in tandem with other coaches. I open up conversations with them and see, okay, what are you working on so we're not in conflict? What are some things you can share with me? Or even have meetings. At times, I'll have meetings with my client's entire team as well. If there's a conflict, I'll go into conflict resolution with the team and do mindset coaching there. Coaching is very flexible and different for everyone, and everyone has a different style as well. I love the coaching industry. I love how much there is to learn. I think knowing how your coach is trained is incredibly important to see how they would work together. You're talking more of executive coaching, it sounds like. Mindset coaching is totally different. It would work in tandem. Yeah, of course. And what I'm going to do for you guys, thank you for the last question. I would love, if it's okay, to just give away 3 coaching sessions. That's what I'm feeling called to do. To be honest, I stopped taking one-on-one clients. I'm building out a course. Everything I just showed you today is going to be going into a course, so it's a lot more easily accessible. But I know a lot of us in here may be struggling with some action steps. Don't know what to do next. Feeling a little lost. Maybe they don't see what they're not seeing, and I'd love to give you an opportunity to win one of those. So if you guys want to, I'll give you the option email or Instagram. If you want to just DM the word VIP, I'll pick 3 people to give a coaching session away to. Online too, of course. You're invited to the party. But thank you again so much for having me.
I have a question. Last question.
One last question. Yes, of course.
Because I'm curious about something, and we were gossiping right here a little bit. So
I love it. Spill the tea.
it's good. Gossiping is very female stuff. So
Yes.
You do the coaching as like one-on-one coaching, or you have like a Zoom coaching, a program that you sign up for, a program of months. How does it work?
So until now, I've only been working one-on-one with my high-level clients. And by the end of March, I'll be only working as a course. So I have a few private clients that I take on at a time, but everything's going into a course as of March to open up some more accessibility. I've realized how crazy the results I'm getting are, and everyone's like, how do I do it? How do I do it? So I'm making myself a lot more accessible with the course from here on out. Yeah, and well, unless you get one of those 3 coaching sessions, then you'll get one-on-one. My Instagram is Coach Tiffany Taylor. And if you're not on Instagram and you want to use email, it's tiffany@coachtiffanytaylor.com.